And you're welcome back. You're welcome actually to what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kai Local. We apologize for the late start of today's show. What the papers are saying basically looks at the big stories for the week. So let me give you an idea of some of the big stories quickly, and then I'll introduce my guests who will help me discuss the stories for today. Now, one of the stories that made headlines this week, still making some inroads on the news front, is a reintroduction of road tolls. A leaked memo from the Finance Ministry to some persons popped up during the week, and that made its way onto the media. So let's see how the various news outlets captured that story. Daily Graphic says road tolls coming back, new rates proposed in memorandum. The Ghanaian Times says Finance Ministry recommends fees, charges for new road tolls. Let's go to the Ghanaian publisher. Minister eats humble pie as toll fees goes up. The new publisher says road tolls return with 88% high jump, toll booth toilets dropped. City Newsroom, we are yet to finalize consultation on new road tolls. Finance Ministry speaking there. Still on the City Newsroom, I won't accept road tolls less than 5 cities. Chairman of the Parliament's Road Committee speaking over there. And finally, on the road tolls, minority pushes for decapping of road fund. Another story that made some inroads this week on the media landscape still is Anas and Kennedy Japan's defamation case. Let's see how media houses captured that. Ghanaian Times says Anas 25 million CD defamation suit against Kennedy Japan dismissed. New Crusading Guide. Anas Tiger Eye resolute in corruption fight holds and Justice Bar judgment exposed. City Newsroom, Anas portrayed himself like an angel, but he's worse than the devil. Nyantichi speaking there. City Newsroom, apologized to Edu Buahini. He was treated unfairly. Kennedy Japan to Nanado. And finally, on that story, dismissal of defamation case against Kennedy Japan, travesty of justice. Anas speaking in that statement he released on the matter. Then also we had Afenyo Markin proposing that the number of MPs in Parliament be reduced. So let's see how that story was captured this week. The Informer says hung Parliament affects governors, Joe Wise observes. Daybreak, Afenyo Markin suggests reduction of MPs. City Newsroom, reduce parliamentary seats from 275 to 200. Afenyo Markin speaking there. And finally, another story that is still making airwaves is to do with the fire outbreak at the new KJTR market in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. The Daily Graphic says part of $259 million KJTR market gutted by fire. The Anchor says fire gas $259 million KJTR market. City Newsroom, KJTR market to be shut for 3 days after fire outbreak. And finally, Ashanti Regional Minister calls for probe into KJTR market fire. So those are some of the big stories for the week. Reintroduction of road tolls, Anas and Kennedy Japan defamation case, and also the proposal to reduce the number of MPs in Parliament. Let me bring in my guests for tonight. I have Samuel Atames here with us with City FM and City TV. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Absalom Adoni also here with us at City FM and City TV. Welcome as well. Guys, let's start with the reintroduction of the road tolls. There was, we're told it's a leaked memo actually, one from the Finance Ministry to copy to his deputies, the Chief Director, among others, with the headline, Reintroduction of Road Tolls, Amendment of the Fees and Charges. And then it goes ahead to give some of the new charges we are likely to see when the road tolls are reintroduced. Let me start with you, as Samantha. There are a lot of comments that have come around this leaked memo, we are told, with regards to the reintroduction. Some saying that the memo itself didn't look at some of the key issues that popped up before the road tolls were put on hold. For example, the automation, and then looking at the fees that are proposed, not good enough to really serve any good purpose and all that. What are your initial thoughts around this memo that we saw popping up this week?
Thanks, Vivian. I think again we keep hearing this thing about a leaked memo, and I'm asking whether leaked or not is really inconsequential. Are they going to reintroduce the road tolls or not? And I think everything shows that they are going to reintroduce the road tolls. Indeed, when that knee-jerk policy redirection of suspending the road tolls came, we all said in our studio that that wasn't going to be sustainable. I don't know who does that in 2022, 2023, just abrogate the use of road tolls when you are still begging for money everywhere. And so it wasn't well thought through, and it was a very painful mistake that we had to go through as a nation. And from what I am seeing, even the attempt to reintroduce it hasn't been well thought through again, because 1 year or so after, you would expect that the reintroduction would take cognizance of some of the challenges that bedeviled the operationalization of our road tolls, and also what the collection of the road tolls sought to achieve. I mean, the world over, road tolls have been a legitimate way of helping build road infrastructure.
Yeah.
So that you say it's a direct way of collecting money without dipping your hands into the tax basket. So definitely you take the money and then you help with road infrastructure. Elsewhere, investment into road construction, the road tolls are used to recoup some of the money. And then one day somebody just woke up and told everybody that it's been cancelled. And then when they noticed that it was a wrong decision, they rushed to Parliament to go and ratify it. You understand? So it wasn't a sound decision in the first place. And I was, like I said, I was expecting that if we were going back to it, we would have considered all the components that make up or that make this road toll thing a very useful thing.
Well, what are some of the things you are expecting that they put, consider or put into the new discussion?
I haven't seen the full document, but from what we are hearing, and I'm making this determination based on the proposed increments that they're talking about. And I'm saying that if we held on for 1 year, only to increase it by 50 pesos
for cars.
For cars, yeah, that's 50 pesos, which is 100%.
Yeah, 50 to 100.
Yes,
yeah,
so
that's 100%.
That's
100%, yeah.
Given how inflation
it's over 50% now.
Devaluation of our currency, everything put together, I don't think that it's the 50% suggests that we've done some work. But indeed, if we have done the real work of reworking this whole regime of road tolling, 50% is just a scratch on the surface.
So the likes of light buses, for example, they are getting 50 pesos. It used to be 1 cedi. Now they will be 1 cedi 50 pesos as per the proposal. Same with pickups and 4x4 vehicles. They will go up to 1 cedi 50 pesos. Heavy buses, they were 1 cedi 50 pesos. They just go up to 2 cedis. Among
it's still
others.
not going to solve our problem. We heard when they suspended the road tolls, one of the things that they used to talk about was that the road tolls, the amount collected itself wasn't enough, and that they were only good enough to pay salaries of the those who manned the gates. You understand? And in 1 year, you come and increase it by 50%. And you
Maybe they are looking at it realistically. Can people afford a higher figure?
No,
based on all the challenges we are facing.
There's always a way to go around it. I mean, we won't be the first country the world over to try using road tolls or toll gates or toll booths or toll houses to raise money. You have been in America forever. Look at the turnpike. You see, there's a way to do it. Use electronic means. Make the electronic means attractive so that you don't have to wait in a queue for long. There's a manual side so that if you are not paying more to use the electronic and you use the manual, you will delay. Yeah. Who wants to delay?
So they all move there.
I'm just saying that there's always a way. There's always, in more advanced countries, you don't even have to do anything. Once you get there, there's a scanner all over the place. Once it scans your car number, it transmits to a database that takes it away from your automatically. So I'm just saying that if we were bold enough to suspend this thing for 1 year, in reintroducing it, I would expect that we would have thought through and brought in elements that will help us really raise money enough to help with our road infrastructure. Because Vivian, we just came back from a trip around the country. You don't even find a rest stop on our roads. Touch wood, if there's an accident, you are on your own. Yeah. So why are you collecting road tolls and not doing anything with it? Or why do you want to collect road tolls that will not be enough for you to do something more meaningful? Yeah. You get me? So it's like, let's just do it to wipe away our guilt of having used a knee-jerk reaction to suspend it. This is how I see it.
Okay. Let me bring in Selam. You share similar sentiments with
Yes, I do. The cancellation of the road toll itself was not properly thought through, like Samuel rightly said. It was quite reckless and it was populist. It was also, symptomatic of what we've come to see in this country, the rule of man. So there's a process of collecting money. That process would have gone through the required legislative process, etc. One man, like Samuel says, wakes up one morning and decides to cancel it because of the promise of a certain e-levy. And the e-levy hadn't really started. It hadn't been passed, but maybe as a teaser and as a way of encouraging people to support it, somebody just cancels the road toll. Now, the e-levy we were banking our hopes on failed spectacularly. So now here we are, we don't even know what to do. The little money we're getting from the road tolls, we're not getting it again. And then now we've had to, the country loses money or is losing money. Now we've had to eat humble pie and then get back to it again. But the problem, there was a problem the road toll was supposed to solve. That is to raise funds to develop road infrastructure. When you develop, in a third world country or in a developing country like ours, issues of roads are very important. That is how come parliamentarians all over the country promise people they will build roads. When you have good roads, you are happy. When you drive on the roads, you are happy. Your car is not dusty. Your shocks and things, don't suffer the way, they often suffer. So roads open up societies and roads are good. So that was a problem identified, and the road toll as a means of raising money was great because you pay something small, somebody pays something small, we put it together, it does a number of things. So that problem was identified. So you added to the road fund, which was established somewhere in the 90s, to raise, the revenue in there. Now, added to the problem, we saw as part of the new policy directions of this new government, a policy or a law to cap all statutory funds. So the capping of the road fund also suffered from that 25% capping that the finance minister instituted as one of the first things he did when he came to government. So other funds, the NHIS, the NHIF, the District Assembly's Common Fund, a lot of the other funds suffered. Of course, Podo went to the Supreme Court to declare that capping the District Assembly's Common Fund was unconstitutional based on Article 525 because it was in the Constitution that not less than 5% of the revenue of the state should be devoted to the district assemblies. So if somebody comes with an act of parliament seeking to amend a constitution, that was wrong. So the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that that capping should not apply to district assemblies common fund. So that was done. So the capping still remains for the rest of them. So what happens is that the money we are collecting from road tolls, etc., are really not enough. Now we are faced with the difficulty or the problem of capping that, which means that if X amount comes, that X amount will have to be reduced further and the money used for other things. The argument of the finance minister is that there are a lot of rigidities in our system, and partly true, because when you look at how our revenue system is structured, a lot of the monies that come are already earmarked, they are ring-fenced. Yeah. So by law, the minister cannot actually go there. So we have Get Fund, 2.5% earmarked, you can't touch it. You can only use it for what it's intended for. NHIF, only for NHIS things. District Assembly Common Fund, now you have Road Fund, and a whole lot of things. So it made quite some sense. But whether capping it was the way to go is another problem. So that's fine. Now we move on to why we think that the road fund must come back. It must come back. I think it must come back because the problems in the road sector must be solved. But in collecting taxes or in collecting money, nobody really wants to pay money, especially to government. Yeah. Nobody really wants to do that. So as part of tax administration, you must make the process of collecting the money, nice, so that people don't feel the pain when they are paying. Road tolls, you go to certain roads, and in fact, the Dodowa Road, the toll booth there, you actually park in a pothole whilst you pay the toll the road toll.
But that's the point. People say that they've been paying the road tolls. We all agree that the money is not good enough.
Yes.
But they don't see reflect
that
on
is
the
problem
quality of the road.
Of course, the money is not enough.
They may not want to really
go
pay
around.
more.
But at least at the point of paying, make it less painful. I'm paying, but I'm not seeing
You're
it.
in a pothole.
You park in the, in fact, you travel through a number of potholes, about 50 meters to the
and then that be one.
And then continue another 50 meters away. And they are just potholes. In fact, the ramps there are filled with, the ramps have potholes and iron rods coming out of the ramps. People who use that road know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So it's so painful. So the way they collect the money service is not good. Number two is the inefficiency of the collection system. You go to some places, the receipts they give you are automated or they come from a system. You go to certain places, they just tear the receipt and give it to you. You are not even sure how it works. And we know, because we've been told and we've heard many times, that the guys who collect the money do not account properly. That is why it is important to introduce an electronic system. We talk about digitization and we talk about all the things that we will benefit from digitization. This is one of the things we must see. Because if digitization has come to stay and it will help us, we must see it here.
So what about the number of people who will lose their jobs?
Nobody have lost their jobs already.
He's talking about efficiency.
If you collect it efficiently and the loopholes are sealed, it's like you are pouring water in a basket. The loopholes are sealed. You have money to do other things which will employ the people. I think now they are home, right? Because recently they said they should be paid. So they are home anyway. But if you work it out properly, you can call some of them back. That'll be reducing the unemployment in that area. The inefficiency is not correct. The thinking which goes into the whole collection system is problematic. What is the basis? How do they toll the roads? Initially, I thought it was on inter-regional boundary basis. I thought so. I don't know whether it's correct or not. But I don't think it's really the case, because sometimes when you are going out of a region, you see a toll booth. But I've come to see that it is not really the case, because in somewhere around Cape Coast, there is a toll booth, but you are not going out of the central region. Maybe Kaswa toll booth, you can make a case for it.
How they,
do
you have an idea?
It's one way, and the other way is per maybe a particular road project. Okay. So for instance, the Temamoto Way is a particular project. So they decide that based on how much was invested into
that
it,
project,
let's add on the other side how to recoup the investment. But talking about the efficiency, there used to be a scheme where people got to the toll gates, paid, and were given receipts, and the next you see that they throw the receipts away. A lot of people were throwing their receipts away, and some of these guys in the toll booths, they have these vendors around whose duty is to collect everything again.
Oh no!
To collect all the receipts that they've thrown away, and then guess what? Everything they sell now goes into their pocket.
Wow.
Okay, it's been proven to be inefficient. If we are bringing it back, look, we need to be more serious with this thing, because as for road tolls, I mean, where are we going to get the money to reconstruct the roads? Look at Temamoto Way, this motorway, the way we have suffered to make it motorable. We are gradually getting back into the rainy season. and the rains come to expose us at all times. If we are going back to this thing, I think we should think through properly. I have said time without number that the Building and Roads Research Institute of the CSIR has numerous solutions regarding the operations of roads or management of roads. Plenty. At least let's consult them. You know, this whole King Kong approach by politicians that the moment your party comes into power and you are appointed as Minister of Aviation, it means you are the best pilot in the world. You know everything about aviation. You don't consult anybody. You do things
and
as
the
you say by
institutions
heart.
are there, and we're paying them to do all these research and everything.
Have the Road Research Institute. They have the solutions. Let's consult them. You understand? You are going back to this, and let's add 50 pesos. 50 pesos. What projections have you made that has finally helped you to conclude that with an increment of 50 pesos, you'll be able to raise X amount of money that will help you solve the problem of road infrastructure? I haven't seen any document like that, and I doubt if there's any such document. They should prove to us, and we will interrogate that. Because let's look at Accra Cape Coast Road. This road was done how many years ago, and it has started giving way to potholes in certain portions. We will wait till the whole thing messes up completely, and then we'll go for loan again
to fix it.
Why do we do this to ourselves? I used the Fufusu Solar Road last week, and it's just a pale shadow of its former self.
Wow.
Just right now.
Complete rubbish.
Wow. The famous road that was in every budget.
I'm telling you, you get to certain portions of the road, and it's a pain.
Wow.
And you see red earth. Red earth has covered parts of the road.
Wow.
You understand? So we will wait till accidents start happening. We'll wait till the whole road is chopped off, and then we'll go begging for loans to redo it. Because the countries where we are going to take the loans, this is how they raise money to service their roads. But we shy away from it. And one person wakes up in the morning, washes his face, sees things up and down, and decides that, hey, I've stopped it. King Kong says we have stopped it. And everybody has stopped the thing.
Catch up.
I mean, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
Okay, guys, I need to take a quick break. When I come back, Salo, you want to wrap up with it, or you're fine?
Well, let's come back.
Okay, so I'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up on the reintroduction of the road tools. Then we move to the Anas and Kennedy Japan defamation case. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Is this nanny floor? Yes. What is it with pig feet? No.
Ghana is a country that's full of historical antecedents and rich cultural heritage. What is a rich cultural heritage without soul food? And what is soul food without a touch of ethnicity? And what is ethnicity if it's not from your village? The season of all things Ghanaian is upon us, and we are here to celebrate an aspect of our Ghanaianness with the Back to Your Village Food Bazaar, happening live from the 25th to the 26th of March 2023 at the forecourt of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Come, let's treat ourselves to delectable, authentic Ghanaian cuisine from the northern, the middle, and the southern zones of the country that reflect our true cultural diversity. While at it, we'll be jamming to genuine Ghanaian music amidst games, competitions, storytelling, and so much more. Interested vendors of indigenous foods are invited to register. Don't let this be another missed opportunity. Call 0205-973-973 to book a stand and be part of the Back to Your Village Food Bazaar 2023. Anyamime, the country make hot too. So come, let's enjoy some good food, resounding music, heartfelt camaraderie, and remind ourselves why Ghana is still our home at the Back to Your Village Food Bazaar on the 25th and the 26th of March 2023. 2023 at the forecourt of the AMA from 8 a.m. each day. The Back to Your Village Food Bazaar is powered by City TV with support from City FM and is sponsored by Voltic Ghana Limited, Malta Guinness, Africa Business Bureau, Fortune Emopa, and Pan-African Savings and Loans.
To what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kai. I'm here with Samuel Thomas as well as Selim Adono. We just looked at the issue to do with the reintroduction of road tolls. We'll move on to the Anas and Kennedy Japan defamation case, one that is still getting a lot of reaction. We've had the former GFA boss, Kwesi Nyantechi, reacting to it. Of course, the man himself, Kennedy, has spoken following the judgment, and Anas himself released a statement following that judgment that we saw a day or two ago. Salam, I'll start with you on this case. Were you surprised with the judgment that we saw and some of the comments made by the judge with regards to the work of Anas proper and how he does his things?
Well, Vivian, I think it's an interesting case. It's a case that many people were looking forward to, and indeed the judge himself said that it's a case that involved two influential people, one a politician and one who has had the reputation as an ace investigative journalist. So, however the decision went, it was going to be interesting. A lot of people have followed Kennedy Japan on a lot of the things he's been saying. People see him as the hard-talking guy who would say it the way it is. People also see Anas as somebody who will even risk his life to bring the story to the people. And so to have two of them coming at each other on the basis of what one of them, or Anas, does was quite interesting. Purely on the basis of the methods Anas uses to get his information. The methods of Anas have been questioned, but they've not received so much scrutiny as we've seen in this instance, because a lot of the stories he covers or he's covered are matters that have engaged a lot of public attention. And because of the public interest nature of them, there's usually no time to interrogate the methods. So this case provided Kennedy Japan an opportunity to put Anas's methods on trial. And the judge, you know, from all indications and from all aspects of the ruling or the judgment, appeared to have sided with Kennedy Japan. But in actual fact, what this sought to do was to look at the law of defamation again. Defamation is an important aspect of law, tort law. And defamation, the law of defamation is available as a check on the freedom of expression. So freedom of expression is important. So, which is a constitutionally guaranteed right. So is also the right to dignity. So the right to human dignity, as we see in Article 15 or so, that, you know, the right to human dignity is invaluable. That's why what happened in Ashaman, people allegedly made to drink or eat cow dung, etc., was bad, and that's another discussion, a different discussion for another day. So defaming somebody, you know, places a dent on the person's reputation. It can indignify the person depending on what you say. So it's an important thing. So the law makes it possible for somebody who feels defamed to go to the court to vindicate his rights. So Anas took Kennedy Japan to court that a lot of the things Kennedy Japan had said about him, you know, after around 2018, May, June, July, defamed him because he claimed Kennedy Japan called him a murderer, called him a cheat, called him a blackmailer, called him a corrupt person, called him all sorts of names. And in his view, that defamed his person. So the judge took us on a journey of what constitutes defamation. How will you say that somebody has defamed you? What becomes, or what are the elements of defamation? So in the first place, there should be a statement made, and that statement must be capable of having a defamatory meaning. That statement must be capable of lowering your reputation before right-thinking people of society, you know, in such a way that they may hate you or shun you because of what somebody has said about you. That statement or the words published must actually be defamatory. They must actually, you know, bring or lower your reputation in the eyes of right-thinking people of society. And the words that were used must actually refer to that person, you know, and also the words used must be published. So if I come and say something in your ears, or I'm just chatting with you, and I use certain words on you, and it's just the two of us, you can't say I'm defaming you because there's no third person involved. So you can't say that was published because, you know, defamation is not meant to protect your injured feelings. It is meant to protect your reputation. And reputation can only be talked about when third persons or other people are involved. So that's the law on defamation. So the law on defamation is not just left like that. I can say something about you to Samens, who is a third person, that becomes defamatory in your view. But when you hold me before the court, I can say what I've said is not defamatory because, I mean, the law gives me defenses. So if what I said was fair comment, what we call fair comment, or my comment on something that has happened, then it will not necessarily be defamatory. If what I said is true, or I can justify it, it will not be defamatory. So if I said that you are corrupt, and indeed it's been shown that you are corrupt in respect of a certain matter, you cannot say I've defamed you because what I've said would have been the truth. So I could justify it. There are other issues about privileges, etc. Consent. If I have your consent to say something about you, and I go and say it, and now you turn around to say that the words I used have been defamatory against you, that will not lie because I did so with your consent. So the court went through the whole of that journey, and so the remedy for that really is injunction or damages. So if I have knowledge that you're about to publish something about me, I can run to the court and seek and get an injunction against to stop you from publishing that, okay, until the case ends. But if the thing has been published already, the remedy I have is damages. I can get a court to compensate me for my reputational damage, etc. So in this case, what I'm now sought to do was that the thing has been said already. So he went to court to seek reputational, you know, repair, and wanted 25 million cedis, you know, from Kennedy Japan. That didn't happen. The court said that a lot of the things that Kennedy Japan alleged were actually truth, or Kennedy Japan justified them.
So the issue to do with the corruption, blackmail,
it justified them. So when you go to
that.
the judgment, there was an issue about a certain Tunde, etc., involving some gold scandal, 1.9 million, and from the evidence, Anas himself at some point agreed or confessed that he had been paid some $100,000 to see some people, he bribed $100,000 to see some people. The judge analyzed and said that if you confess to bribery, that is corruption. So if the man calls you a corrupt person, he is not wrong. That is actually the truth based on the facts available and a whole lot of things. He also talked about the claim that he was a murderer. He killed J.B. Dankwa just so he could have, you know, opportunity with the wife, etc. You know, the judge found a way of dealing with all of that and said that it could not have been. So the case is actually before the court, and the accused or the persons accused of killing the gentleman are before the court. So Anas is not before the court, and so that could not be a serious comment, or that could not be a comment. I mean, the judge found a way of doing all of that. But what is important in this for us is the method. Okay, in law generally, the method is as important as the solution or the result. So there's a concept or the principle of the poisonous fruit and the poisonous tree. If the tree is poisoned or it's a poisonous tree, the fruit obviously will also be poisonous or be poisoned. What it means is that if the procedure, how you get to your solution is, or how you get your result, is tainted in fraud or impropriety, the result itself cannot be absolutely correct, and we have to look at that. So, for example, you can't secretly record somebody and come and use it in court. It won't work. But like I said before, because of the very nature of the cases and as covered, like the bribery, the judicial corruption, etc., something of national, you could imagine that when the case of the judicial corruption happened, the judiciary would say that because he did not procure the evidence properly, you know, it won't stand or it won't work. You can imagine what the public would say, that you they've caught you, now you are covering yourself. Because of things like that, there's public interest, so it goes through. It also means that people who say they are investigative journalists or people who practice investigative journalism must now be a bit careful about how they go about their work. They must ensure that what they do is not entrapment, but it is really getting the job and getting it done.
But what are the standards in journalism with regards to investigative journalism? How far can you go, and when do you cross the line? Because, I mean, this issue to do with Anas is one that has been questioned by a lot of people, even top journalists and all that, with regards to how it's the person's face is covered. I mean, we don't know who he is. He traps you, you fall in, and then he says, that's it.
I think the investigative journalism regime varies from country to country.
Okay.
You know, there are certain countries you can be a journalist, but if you want to get into the space of investigative journalism, there is a process that you have to go through for you to be recognized as investigative journalism. I mean, I don't think, per my records, we have so many of them in this part of Africa. You know, most of our investigative journalists, I mean, from my personal experience, have come from South Africa, Kenya, Namibia, Botswana, within that space.
And not much from West Africa.
Not much from West Africa that I know. And I have had encounters with loads of them, especially in South Africa. And the strange thing about South African investigative journalists, most of them are women. Most of them are women. You know.
Is there a reason?
I don't know the background. Okay. And entrapment is not their approach. You get me? You know. So go and put the banana there so that when the person
the
takes it,
sees the thing.
Then you say, I catch you. Then you go and publish it. You know, I catch him. I say, catch you. You know, it's the way the likes of, remember we had one journalist with Ghanaian Chronicle back in the day, William Nyako. The way they used to do it, we will find ways of getting into your space to be able to see how you are doing it and be able to collect evidence. Okay. You know, that's a more difficult approach, if you ask me. But really, that's also the more robust approach too. You know, look at where I'm not too much into the legal thing, so this is my first time hearing the name of the judge. But everybody I have spoken to says that this is a judge you don't joke with.
Okay. Highly respected.
So you are in the space. Is it this judge, and when he writes what he writes, you read it like a textbook, meaning that he knows his stuff. Yeah. Okay. And I think that it's also okay if Anas wants to appeal. You know, I think that's permissible, right? Yeah, if he wants to appeal. But on the whole, I think it also dents the whole drive of the Anas thing, if you ask me. Yeah. Because you see, this particular encounter with the judge or the court will open him up.
A lot of scrutiny.
A lot of scrutiny.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to end here, because suddenly people woke up and noticed that it's possible.
Yeah.
If you watch the demeanor of Kwesi Nyantakyi and his whole jubilation, that should give you the cue that there may be others. And Ghana is a very small country, you know. The whole investigative journalism thing is now on the is now being tested. Yeah. You understand? So I don't know beyond.
Can he recover with this? I mean, he's saying, of course, he released a statement.
Yeah. I don't know beyond Anas whether we are going to have another investigative journalist.
Maybe we would, but not using his style.
Well,
based on also what we've
me,
seen
in
with
the
the
space,
courts and
apart
all
from
that.
Anas, I don't
There's
know
nobody
other,
actually.
I don't know any other investigative journalism. I'm not talking about journalists when politicians go and steal some document and give it to you and tell them go and publish it and say, yeah, he has done what. They haven't done anything. They have not intercepted. They are politicians. When they want to fight their opponents, they go and get something on there and come and give to you. Say you have investigated. They haven't investigated anything.
Because we have a few people
please,
who are
please,
doing
please,
that.
please.
So you don't think that one is...
I know
anything.
of Anas. I know of William Nyako. I don't know anybody else.
So yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Let me just give you a few quotes from the judgment. I mean, just one or two.
If you can also capture the place around the some terrorism, you know,
this one said the evidence from plaintiff's own mouth is that Babatunde bought him with $100,000. Lo and behold, the tapes of the suspects were never shown to the public by the plaintiff. The accusation is that he records you, he gets you in a situation, records you, now comes to show it to you, and extorts or demands some money from you. That was the allegation. And so the judge is saying that from his own mouth, he said the gentleman bought him with $100,000, and lo and behold, the tapes of the suspects were never shown to the public by the plaintiffs. The judge said, I considered it established that plaintiff blackmails people he desires to destroy, probably his enemies or the enemies of his friends or partners or persons loaded with cash, whether legitimate or illegitimate, as the suspects in the gold scam case, by catching them on tape. The tape is then shown to them. The tape on those who pay up are shelved, but those who refuse or are not able to pay are held exposed to the full glare of the public for reputational damage. Such conduct is legally and morally wrong. It is evil. Based on the evidence, defendant, who is Kennedy Japan, was justified in calling the plaintiff evil, criminal, corrupt, blackmailer, and extortionist. So that's how the judge analyzed and then came to that conclusion. In another place, he also talked about how presidents, etc., were involved or were supposedly caught in the web. Let me just give you a short one. He said it should be understood that as officers caught by plaintiff in his investigations, it should be understood that as officers caught by plaintiff in his investigations have lost their jobs, an entrapped president may be compelled to resign out of shame or public pressure. That means a plaintiff, through his investigative antics, can cause the removal of a president and thereby append the mandate given to him at the elections. That is not investigative journalism. It is investigative terrorism. It is exercise of indirect political power under the cloak of journalism. The serious aspect is that political enemies of a president who could not stand him at an election may hire the plaintiff to entrap him to undermine his presidency. Enemies of a state can hire him just to destroy the political hierarchy. And it goes on and on. So these are some of the things he said. Others have said a lot of the things he said are obiter, but these are his analysis from it. The other point is that, I mean, Anas has responded. Anas's response.
Let me pick a few things from his response. I'll look at point 3, which captures the issue with the judge and all that. He says, we find the decision of the court an unfortunate travesty of justice and very inimical to the administration of justice and fairness. If for nothing at all, Mr. Japan made an allegation of murder against Mr. Anas. There's absolutely nothing contained in the said documentary which alludes to the commission of murder or an allegation of the commission of murder by Mr. Anas. Thus, that documentary cannot provide any justification for an allegation of murder in the wildest imagination. Yet the judge conveniently ignored this obvious fact and the fact that Mr. Anas is not a suspect for murder and is not under investigation for murder. This case traveled through the hands of 3 judges, with Justice Barr being the latest assigned to the case at the express instance of Kennedy Japan. Throughout the trial, Mr. Japan displays absolute disdain and disrespect of the court and the lawyers of Anas, but all attempts to cite him for contempt hit a dead end. We know that Mr. Japan attended court in the company of Mr. Kwesi Nyantikyi, who has been banned for 15 years from football-related activities. And finally, it says, Tiger IPI and our CEO, Anas, remain resolute in our fight against corruption in the Ghanaian society in service to God and country. So clearly feels that maybe
he's obviously not happy with
not
the
happy,
judgment,
and the judge.
but he's not giving any indication that he would appeal. Of course, it doesn't matter. He may decide to appeal or not. But you don't just appeal for appealing's sake. You must be sure that when you appeal, you will do well at appeal. He mentioned the fact that the judge was handpicked by Kennedy Japan. This is what he means. On the 19th of October 2021, the lawyer for Kennedy Japan, Raphael Japan, a good friend, wrote to the Chief Justice. So before that, there was a judge handling the matter. that was changed to an additional High Court judge, Court of Appeal judge, an additional High Court judge, Justice Eric Barr, who was dealing with the matter. He was taken off, and another judge brought, Justice Gifty Ado also brought. And so Japan's lawyer wrote to the court and said that they don't think it's appropriate to remove Justice Eric Barr from the case at this time, because the argument was that, so let me read one paragraph of this. Okay, my lord, the above suit, which was instituted in 2018, remains on head until the arrival of until the arrival of the above named judges, Justice Eric Barr. He began taking evidence on the case and has so far heard the evidence of the plaintiff and defendant. He has heard part of the cross-examination of the defendant. He has observed the demeanor of the parties and is abreast with the details of the case, including its nature and scope. So I'm aware that a new judge has been posted to the High Court General Jurisdiction Division 2. It will take some time for the record of proceedings to be put together for the new judge. She will need further time to study the record, to familiarize herself with it, to enable her effectively continue it. She also does not have the benefit of the demeanor of the witnesses so far. The demeanor of the witnesses in the box is important. So the argument of the lawyer is that if you remove Justice Eric Barr from it, the new judge has not had the benefit of seeing the witnesses in the box. That one, you can't write it. It's something you see, how the witness behaves, confident, lying. You make up.
And this is not out of place
to make
respectfully,
it is my view that it will be quicker and more efficient for Justice Barr to continue the case than the new judge. In the circumstance, respectfully and earnestly pray you to order the previous judge to continue the case, the previous judge being Justice Barr. So that is the point Anas was making, that the judge was handpicked by Ejiofor, and that he was in charge of the selection of the judges for the case. That's his point. You know, his comment on Kwesi Nyantakyi, I don't find it, I don't see the connection, because if Nyantakyi follows Kennedy Japan to court, he's been banned from engaging in footballing activity. Court activity is not footballing. I don't really see the connection, but by the work, because maybe the number 12 documentary was largely on Nyantakyi, maybe he felt the need, and because he felt that this whole thing was triggered by Nyantakyi's, removal as FA boss, etc., he had to bring him in. But I didn't really see the connection. But of course, it makes our space cleaner. Investigative journalists must now watch their methods properly and ensure that what they are doing is above board. I'm not saying Anas is not above board, but maybe if he wants to do it, he must look at it again and come back. But if there's an appeal, why not? We'll be happy to follow it and see how it comes.
We'll see how it goes. But Baba, any final comments on this?
Investigative journalism thrives heavily on reputation. And this has called or put a lot of questions on the reputation of Anas going forward.
Will he survive this?
Well, I don't know. I can't say he won't survive. I think my question is, would he have the motivation to keep doing it? So fast forward, 6 months from now, Anas comes to announce that I have another blockbuster of investigation. Meet me at the conference center to watch. Will it generate the same kind of interest and excitement? I doubt it. So the Tiger Eye team, Anas and his people, based on what we have experienced in the last 48 hours, will have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. Because you see, we may be sitting in our studio here talking about this, but trust me, this thing has serious international significance and consequences. Because this is Anas. The BBC is working with Anas. The CNN has done projects with Anas. There are other ones that are not named because of the nature of the investigations. And if a competent court in your home country runs this judgment on you, it comes with questions. And so, and Anas himself is a lawyer, right? Anas is a lawyer. After doing journalism, he went to law school, and so he should be in a better place to understand what it means. And if he has anything to do about it, he better start now.
Right.
So I think he should keep at it if he really wants to reclaim his name. He should keep at it. and he should ensure that people rebuild their confidence in him. He should do it with this in his mind. The methods must be better, the methods must be above board, and he must ensure that what he says he is doing really is what he is doing. Okay. So, for example, the issue about the Minister of State Finance and how it was promoted and what we saw really was not as we saw it. And people have also questioned why you want to go rent a whole conference center, you know, to show, I mean, is it commercialization? I mean, what is it? If you brought it to CCTV or another radio TV station to show it, we look at it. If it's good, we show it, maybe at no cost or at a small fee. But you know, in fact, you could even show it on YouTube, and people will still watch if it is worth it. So people have questioned all of that.
Space, but gentlemen, my name is Vivian.